Good morning. The 24th of December 2024. My thumb got caught in the door of a van and it's quite sore. It got caught down here like that. And the nail is still there, but it's must have bruised everything underneath it or something. But it's very awkward. I can't shut a button up with this hand, and but I'm getting by with it. Like this keeps it from hitting. If I hit it that way, it's very sore. So hopefully it'll take a lot of time. And that uninjured a bone takes usually 2 months to get better, or even half better. So I have the Orton's boy here behind me, given to me a present. Geo means worldwide. Geopolitical means worldwide politics. And there's more bad news for Europe. As you know, in my opinion, the European Communion, has descended into a nanny state. The Irish people elected nanny candidates as members of the European Parliament, and they will go over there and they meet Ursula von der Leyen and a crowd of other nannies there as well. And the thing about nannies is that's all right. There's a place for a wee bit of that, but at the same time, they have no head on them for any kind of survival, economics, military, or anything else. And they are this delusion that their whole policy has to go to changing the weather in 100 years' time. That's their main goal, and their main fight in life is fighting the weather. So they're fighting the weather. Imagine if you told somebody 50 years ago that the main role of the European Union, when it's been set up, was to fight the weather. To do some looking at you. In any event, there's a number of things. One is that in the new year, on the 1st of January, Volodymyr Zelensky, he's not Vladimir, it's Volodymyr Zelensky, he's the acting president. He's not elected. I don't know what his role is, but he calls himself the president of Ukraine. He is to cut off the last pipeline from Russia into Europe. He says he can't allow gas to flow through his country and be sold to Europe, where it can be paid for by Europe to Russia, propping up Putin's Russian war machine. And whether he has a point in that, I don't know. But the thing is, he's threatened to do it on the 1st of January. That will leave less gas, less fuel in Europe. Now, it has to be remembered about Europe that Europe is telling us that they're going to go net zero. There'll be no fuel being burned. Or they'll have some type of a way of working it that they can burn fuel, but it won't cause any emissions. This is what they keep telling us. So whether that goes ahead or not, I don't know, but it is a big threat to Europe's gas supply. Meanwhile, the European Union, being the ultimate nanny state, has now decided to extend nannyism to the whole world. In other words, anyone who trades with the EU will be subject to nanny state laws. And one of those laws is the Sustainability and Due Diligence Law. And this law means that from the 1st of January 2025, anyone who supplies goods into the EU must prove to the EU that they are sustainable. That means building windmills and solar farms and pushing electric cars and banning petrol and diesel cars. That's the first thing they must do. And that they're putting up windmills and solar farms as well. And that they're doing all this net zero and green stuff. Now, of course, nobody in the world is doing that. And if there wasn't a war in Ukraine, Europe would be trying to force that on China and Russia and India, and they're only laughing at them. So Europe has American sanctions on Russian products, including fuel and everything else, and so they won't be dealing with Russia. But they're still dealing with China, and it'll be very interesting to see how they force their sustainability and due diligence on coal burning power stations and all of that in China. So we'll see how that goes. But Qatar is a big supplier of gas to Russia now. It's a big supplier of gas. And so on the 1st of January, they will be forced to provide evidence of the sustainability and due diligence. And the fella in charge there, Alibabi, or however you call him, Alibabi, oh, he's Sherry Daddy something anyway. I think he's Sheridan as well, whoever he got that. But anyway, he's the fellow in charge of the fuel. He says they'll not take any orders from Europe on how to run their affairs. Now, it's an Islamic state, of course. It's an Arab state, and so you're going to have some types of human rights abuses, no doubt. But this is the first time Europe ever tried to export its nanny state policies and its policies to other countries. So your man says no way. He says it's the fine for not obeying it. Of course, another way of Europe getting money. Europe will fine them 5% of their annual sales. So if Qatar sells 10% of its fuel into the EU, but 90% to somewhere else, the EU will fine them 5% of the total sales. 5% of the total sales. That'd be considerable. So he says, all right, if that's what you want, I won't sell you any gas at all. I won't sell you any gas at all. So there's going to be crack on the 1st of January. I hope he cuts the gas off. I hope he does. And I hope Zelensky cuts it off, because these people have been telling us we can live without coal, oil and gas. Now, let's see how they're going to manage it. Meanwhile, the decimation of German industry and European industry is gathering apace. Volkswagen has decided to lay off 35,000 employees. Mercedes-Benz, the boss, accused the workers of being lazy and not coming into work and all of this. Porsche is in trouble. Now remember, BASF, the big chemical giant, it has lost an awful lot of its industry to other countries, China mainly. Now, as if that wasn't worse, that wasn't bad, President Trump has decided, and I have good time for him, but he hasn't that much economic understanding. He hasn't that much economic understanding. He is supporting Bitcoin. He says Bitcoin is the future, and I have grave reservations about that. Bitcoin is a creature of the internet. Without the internet, it couldn't survive. It has no coinage. It has no underlying value. It's not connected to anything. It's all to do with blockchains that keeps it scarce, and you can only add to the amount of money supply in certain ways. And it is out of control of the government, of course. And anyone who bought €100 in Bitcoin early on would be worth several hundred thousand now. I actually know somebody who did do that, but I didn't do it, unfortunately. But at the same time, if they go to sell, if there's any jitters about selling, it will collapse. So it's very dangerous for anyone to take on that Bitcoin is the future. And that's typical Trump. I would question him there. Anything is, the next thing is then, he's told the Europeans to have to buy their gas and oil from America. And America has plenty of gas and oil. So they are being told they have very little in Europe at all. So he's telling them they have to buy of him and pay a big price, and that they can't be buying gas from Russia and Qatar and everywhere else and expecting America to prop up their defense. And Trump is watery on NATO and watery on defense. And so if it turned out that Trump goes the whole hog and applies sanctions on America, well, that'll cripple them altogether. No matter what way you look at this situation, it looks like everything I wrote in my consultations to the EU has come to pass. Down through the years, I was fighting my windmills and all this old nonsense and green agenda, and them closing the military, the nuclear power plants and all of that. And I continually wrote to them, you can't do this. This is unsustainable. And there's a Strategic Environmental Assessment Directive which requires you to assess this with engineers, and you won't do it. And I've written all that. It's there on the record. Whatever they'll do with it, I don't know. I spent hours typing out, pressed the submit button and got an acknowledgement back. And that went to the EU Commission. But they never listened. They really thought they were going to run the whole lot on windmills and solar farms. And I have claimed they are net consumers of electricity when you measure them over the year. Now they're sucking the whole power from all the neighbouring countries, and the price of ordinary electricity has shot up in other countries because they have to supply Germany, and that puts the price up for the local people. They're competing against Germany for fossil fuel power, just so that Germany can show off, oh, we're green. So the government has collapsed there. So what's going to happen? I don't know. Now then there has been an attack on that place in Germany. Magdeburg, is it? Magdeburg? I'm not sure now, I just haven't it here now. But it ends in Berg anyway. And the guy that did that was from Saudi Arabia. He was a radical, violent person. He had doctor's qualifications, which doesn't surprise me because I used to be involved in the vetting of doctor students coming in here, and some of them weren't great. But the thing is that he had a grievance. I think his grievance was different. He said that Saudi Islamists should not get in. He was an atheist. He didn't want the Islamic religion. But one way or the other, he fled to Europe, and they gave him asylum, and the Saudis warned Europe that that fella is capable of doing anything, and he has killed 5 people by driving a vehicle into them. So there's what the Germans get. They are this mass migration, and all of this is a nutcase thing. They didn't even heed the warning they got, and all those people are dead and seriously injured. So it might help the AfD, the Alternative for Germany, in elections to take place in February. So the whole EU project is not dead. It's not dead, and I wouldn't say it's all gone, but it's still it's getting weaker all the time. And as far as I'm concerned, the quicker it collapses and dies out and get rid of it all, the better. That's wishful thinking. Anyway, folks, that's 11 minutes and 50 seconds. Now, the other thing too is, just before I go, is the Middle Eastern situation. The people who have taken over Syria are abusing Christians over there, and they're burning Christmas trees in Islamist Syria. And the rebels that are have taken over are armed and financed by the United States. So they're a branch of ISIS, and the leader was a former ISIS man, and that's the very people that Trump was trying to put down. And ISIS now, their descendants are running Syria. Isn't that some twist about where America was fighting ISIS, and now they're financing them when it suits themselves. Turkey is to the north of Syria, and it is backing these rebels, and they have overthrown Assad, who may not have been perfect. He was better than what you have now. In the short term, Israel is the winner because it gets rid of Hamas in that area, and it has bombed the daylights out of Syria. It has destroyed every military piece of equipment that they could possibly destroy, although I doubt very much if they succeeded completely. And that's to keep these weapons out of the hands of the rebels, and they'll attack Israel because they're Islamists. They said they won't, but they will, of course. So it's a temporary victory for Israel and Netanyahu, but we'll see how that goes. And meanwhile, in northwest, I think it is, in Syria, there's a number of things. One, the Americans have a big oil field there. I mean, nothing to do with them, and they have taken the oil out of it, the lifeblood out of the country. No one ever challenges it, just them. But the Kurds are there too, and America backs the Kurds. And Erdogan of Turkey hates the Kurds. So he wants to annihilate the Kurds. And America wants to protect the Kurds. So here you have 2 NATO countries, the United States and Turkey, which has a huge military. Turkey's a serious fighting capability on different sides in this dispute. So it'll take some of Trump's negotiating skills to fix this situation. How it'll pan out, I don't know how. The economy of the Lebanon was in the doldrums 3 years ago. Can't be great now. I don't know how they survive. Meanwhile, we think of the Christians that are living there now and hope they'll manage to get through it. I'd imagine Trump would try and protect those, I don't know. But we'll see anyway. It's now the 24th, so in a month's time, less than a month, He'll be in the White House, and then we'll see what happens. I'll have plenty of videos on him before then. So that's mostly the basic news. Here at home, Veroni Murphy has been appointed the Can Cora, the Speaker of the Irish Parliament, and they're now setting about trying to form a government. We'll see how that goes. She says she can affect things from within as Can Cora. I have no idea. I wish her the best luck. She's a good one anyway. One thing, she's on our side. But needless to say, the other rascals will try to continue with their mad stuff until they bring the economy down. And in that, this guy here, this lad here, could well bring the tax rate down in America to 15%. And if he does, the money that Apple has guaranteed to Ireland, the 13 billion, will be just as easily paid to the United States. And so that'll be a loss for Europe again. And then the danger of these they're only actually postbox companies in Ireland. They pay a bit of tax here, and that gets them out of tax elsewhere. How good they are. Now, their employer, they do employ a good lot of people. There's no doubt Google and all these do employ people here, but if they happen to go, they'd leave us with a severe unemployment problem here. All the indications are, unfortunately, from all the experts, you'll get them there on YouTube, I can post a few to you, all the indications are that there's going to be a severe correction. And I'm the only one in the world who's ever said that a downturn or a slump or a depression or recession is when when it's discovered that the value of the assets of the companies are not what it's thought. It was estimated there on one report I saw in the Financial Times that the value of the world's asset is 150% what it should be. In other words, every factory, every building is valued at 150% of its proper value. So if it's valued at 100,000, if it's valued at 150,000, it's actually only worth 100,000. And when that seeps through, that'll mean that banks and lending agencies that have these as guarantors for loans can only get, 2/3 of their money back from the assets if they were sold. And that then feeds through to everything else, because for every genuine job you have a whole lot of jobs then that spring from that, from those people spending their money locally and elsewhere. We'll see you back. I suppose one of the things that will not be kept, we'll find out later, is how much of shopping is internet. There's no doubt when you hang around shops and do all the parking and that, there is a big temptation to use internet shopping. I use it for certain limited things, but I'd say it will become more the thing of the future. You see the Dunn stores, the Tesco vans all over the place, going around delivering things, and maybe that's the way people would want it to be. And indeed, I could say there's a certain amount to be said for that. Chat underneath. See you back on 18 minutes. Bye bye and thank you.